Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today's video is going to be absolutely bonkers. We're going to take a look at yet another trend that is showing us that the housing market is in transition into a buyer's market. Now, there are so many things putting pressure on the housing market that it is going to crash, and it is going to crash hard. You guys know I hate using that word crash because the definition of crash is so different from person to person. So I love saying instead, negative equity growth is going to spread across the nation. Now, not only is demand from first-time home buyers completely crippled, now demand from investors is absolutely getting crippled as well, as investors continue to flee the crumbling housing market. Now, what we're going to do today, y'all, is we're going to unpack an article from Redfin titled Investor Home Purchases Slump 17% from Pandemic Peak as Interest Rates Rise. Now, you guys remember what I have been saying and predicting. I try to put numbers on things. It's really hard to do that when I ain't got no crystal ball. But I'm expecting at the end of August to have 700 to 800,000 active listings, not just listings under contract and pending, 700 to 800,000 active listings. I also expect the interest rates to continue to go up until August. I believe the interest rates are going to plateau in August and then go up again in September. I believe the third quarter of this year, all of the housing market crashing and the pandemonium in the housing market is going to hit mainstream media, and it's going to continue to dump fear on the other side of the market, which is the sellers. I think that happens Q3 of this year. Q4 of this year, I think that's going to be the beginning of amazing buying opportunities, but just the beginning. I believe in 2023, we are going to have some of the best buying opportunities for homes than we have had in decades. But regardless, you guys, let's unpack this article right now. But before we do, remember, show me some love, you guys. I'm working extra hard to get you guys videos out every single day. So please like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And as always, you guys, please comment. Absolutely love your comments. Even if I'm not responding, I'm reading them. Okay. I'm going to go into my hobbies on another video. I think you guys' minds would be blown if you guys know what I like doing as a hobby. I'll give it to you real quick. It's land-based shark fishing, tagging, releasing, and providing the data to the Heart Institution. It requires a lot of my time. Anyways, let's start reading this article right now. Okay, the article goes on. Real estate investors bought 77,829 homes in the metros tracked by Redfin in the first quarter, down 11.5% from the fourth quarter of 2021 and 16.5% from the third quarter of 2021. When investor purchases hit a record high on a year-over-year basis, investors' purchases were up 30.7%, the smallest annual gain in a year. Still, investors bought up a larger share of America's homes than ever before. They purchased a record 20% of homes that sold in the first quarter, up from 19.2% one quarter earlier and 15.3% 1 year earlier. A decrease in overall home purchases nationwide allowed investors to increase their market share even while purchasing fewer home. Now, here's the really crazy thing to me personally, you guys. An average of 20% of the homes that were on the market went to investors. To me, that is a massive number. We're going to look at that number as far as what it looked like pre-pandemic and then throughout 2015 to current. So that graph is coming up, but it's absolutely astonishing to see how many of investors actually purchased real estate. Now, here's the thing. Of those 20% of the investors that purchased those homes, 75% are small-time investors. So I'm really worried about small-time investors because a lot of the small-time investors are first-time small-time investors. And if they're not properly set up to get through a recession, to get through a correction, collapse, and crash in the housing market, we're going to see a wave of foreclosures, not from primary residences, but we will see a wave of foreclosures from investors. Mark my words on that, because everything just spiraled out of control. Property taxes, homeowners insurance, things of that nature, right? It's crazy right now. Not to mention interest rates are soaring. So some of these would-be investors or small investors, quite frankly, They don't have the experience to get through what we're about to go through. So I'm really worried the investors are actually going to lead the foreclosure wave. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it is something to think about. And it definitely is a possibility. But let's get back to the article right now. Okay, guys, so here's a graph right here, or more like a chart. This is investor home purchases fall for second straight quarter. Okay, now what I really want to look at is just the history of investors. Okay, so this is in essence, look at here's where we're at. We're at Q1 of 2022. Now, as you can see, investor purchases peaked in Q3 of 2021 at 93,000, and look at it plummeting since then. So it's really starting to fall here. And these are historically hot months in the housing market. So they're falling under historically hot months in the housing market. This is probably going to plunge. I suspect Q2 of 2022, it's going to be much worse as far as investor demand. But what's interesting to note is, investor demand should be way down here, at under 60,000. Okay. So we're still way above pre-pandemic. And I also want to show you, something else that I find really interesting. It's basically Q2 of 2021 right here. So this is really when I think Q1 of 2021 is when I think the Federal Reserve should have started their quantitative tightening and raising of the federal funds rate, because look at what happens in Q2 of 2022. Q2 of 2021 is really when this problem that we have right now, in my opinion, started spiraling out of control. Look at this jump from Q1 to Q2 right here. That is a massive jump, you guys. And this is, again, where I think the problem really spiraled out of control, Q1 and Q2 of 2021. And if the Federal Reserve would have started pausing, and cooling down the housing market right here, I think we're in store for a soft landing. I mean, we're still not going too crazy in Q1 of 2021. It's all still about the same. But the problem, you guys, is the Federal Reserve is late to the party. Because they're late to the party, they didn't act in 2021. The beginning of 2021, as you can see, we are now going to be crashing and burning. Again, this is just my opinion, of course. Let's continue on with the article right now. Investor home purchases are falling for the same reason overall home purchases are falling. Surging interest rates and high housing prices have made it more expensive to take a mortgage and buy a home. While roughly 3/4 of investors' purchases are made with cash, investors are still impacted by interest rates because often take out loans to get that cash. So you guys, even though they're putting in all cash offers, a lot of investors take loans to get cash, and those loans have even higher interest rates. So now with surging interest rates on top of high interest rates, goodbye investors, or at least cash offers, it continues. The fact that investors are still able to grow their market share while buying fewer homes signals they're not feeling the pain of higher interest rates as intensely as individual buyers, many of whom are getting priced out of the housing market altogether. It also indicates that the individuals who can still afford to buy will continue to face competition from investors. But I don't really believe that, you guys. I don't think we're going to have stiff competition from investors, quite frankly, because this data is lagging. Q2 numbers come out and it's going to plunge even more. Let's continue to read. In dollar terms, investors bought $49.8 billion worth of homes in the first quarter, down 6.8% from $53.4 billion one quarter earlier, but up 40.3% from $35.5 billion 1 year earlier. So it's still super high, but it is plunging. The typical home investor's purchase cost $427,000, up from $425,000 one quarter earlier, and $372,000 1 year earlier. So investors are purchasing homes that are a lot more expensive. And again, for the investors that are not properly prepared, that had that fear of missing out, right? Investors can have fear of missing out too. You want to know why? They're just normal human beings. It's a human being emotion, right? So I'm really worried about the foreclosure wave actually coming from investors. If not foreclosures, I think they're going to start fire selling their houses the end of this year. Let's keep an eye on that, and let's keep reading this article right now. A few months ago, 95% of homes for sale in Nashville would get at least one cash offer from an investor. That is crazy, you guys. So 95% of homes in Nashville got an offer from a cash investor. Pretty shocking. One of my listings got 8. Today, most homes aren't getting any. This is good news for regular buyers. While some of them will still get into bidding wars with investors, investors won't necessarily have to waive every contingency and offers astronomically over the asking price to compete. The drop in investor purchases over the last 2 quarters may indicate investor purchases are past their peak and returning to normal. Up until the end of 2021, investor purchases have been climbing steadily since the pandemic began, in defiance of normal seasonality. Meanwhile, overall home purchases seesawed in typical seasonal fashion. Now it seems investors' activity is getting back on track with the market as a whole. While investor purchases have slowed, remain above pandemic levels, in part because investors can rent out the homes, buy, and cash in on soaring rents. Demand for rentals is high because there aren't enough homes for sale, and the ones that are for sale are often too expensive. So, in other words, you guys, here's the thing: investors are preparing, right? So, if you're not preparing, to purchase good deals at the end of this year and into 2023, guess who is, right? Guess who is? Investors. So even though there's investors leaving the market right now, they're fleeing the market right now, they're going to come right back into the market as soon as things get great as far as buying opportunities. So it's now more important than ever to properly prepare yourself, whether you're a cash buyer or you're going to leverage your debt to purchase real estate. But overall, you guys, here's my conclusions and here's how I want to end this video. So if you're a cash buyer, here's what you should be doing right now. If you're a cash buyer, continue to track the data and your local housing market daily and maintain a good relationship with a realtor. Communicate with your realtor. Your realtor gives you information. It's a beautiful relationship, right? It's going to be more important once it's closer time to buy, but right now, track data, follow trends, have a good relationship with the realtor. Now, if you're like me, you're going to leverage your debt, you're going to get a mortgage. Understand there are three main factors, which is credit, income, and assets. Now, as you're waiting, you're going to want to improve each of those three things, starting with credit. If you have credit challenges, understand that it's about utilization ratio. Utilization ratio is, in my opinion, the most important thing when having a high FICO score or credit score. Utilization ratio only pertains to credit cards, okay? The optimal utilization ratio is like 1%, but you never want to go over 30%. And if you're trying to buy a house, don't even play the percentages. Just stop using your credit cards. Don't close your credit cards because that will harm your credit, but stop using them. You can use them once every 6 months and they'll continue to report. But make extra sure your utilization ratio is well under 30%. Now, the next thing, income, right? Now, if you're, on the sidelines like me, get another job, find another source of income, and make sure you're solid at your current job. Become unreplaceable, become a golden asset to your company, right? And find another job. It's not hard to find jobs right now. It's going to start being hard, but it's not yet, okay? Now, the third thing, assets. If you need to save more money, the first step is seeing how you spend. Download apps like Mint.com. Mint.com allows you to track every penny that you spend. Once you understand how you're spending, eliminate some bad habits so that you can save more. I use Mint. I found subscriptions and food are off the charts in my spending habits, so I've done something about it, and that has allowed me to save more money along with an additional source of income, right? So those are the things you need to do, but the most important thing of all, in the meantime, you guys, love your family. Spend time with them. Do things. Play games with your children. Don't stress. The market's changing. Even a child can see these trends and understand that if these trends continue, obviously it's going to turn into a buyer's market. So I think the question for most people is, how much will negative equity take place, right? How much negative equity growth will we have and what metro cities will it enter? And that's what we're really going to focus on moving into 2022. But as always, you guys, I really appreciate you watching this video. And if you're out there investing in real estate, I wish you luck and I hope you win.